Better coffee doesn't start with the brew. It starts with the beans. Grind matters. Water temperature matters. How you pour matters. They all matter. But if you skip this first step, every adjustment becomes a shot in dark. Stop guessing. Start understanding what the bean is trying to express. Let's start at the real beginning. So every brew you make has intention behind it. If you ever brewed a cup that tasted incredible one day, somehow dull the next, you're not alone. Every coffee lover has felt that gap between what you hoped for and what actually ended up in the cup. And when that happens, the first instinct is the same. You start analyzing your brew. Was this under-extracted? Did I misjudge the grind? Is my grinder the problem? Do I need a better one? And sure, maybe the grinder slipped a bit. Maybe the timing was off. Those things happen. But when a cup keeps feeling unpredictable, it's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's because all those adjustments are happening after the bean has already decided what's possible. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to prepare yourself even before you brew for better coffee. Brewing can shift how the cup tastes, but it can't change what the bean actually brings. And that's where the real beginning lives, with the bean, long before you touch the kettle. Before you think about grind or pour, the real question is, do these beans match the kind of flavor you actually enjoy? Because if the answer is no, no amount of technique will ever make the cup feel right to you. Every bean carries a direction. Some lean bright and lively. Some settle into sweetness. Some carry more body and weight, while others stay clean and light. And here's the part most brewers overlook. Those directions come from the beans themselves, not the brewing. Brewing can shape how those qualities appear, but it can't invent something the bean doesn't naturally have. If the bean doesn't carry sweetness naturally, you can't brew sweetness into it. If it doesn't have depth or body, you can't extract it from nowhere. That's the limitation side. But beans also have potential. A range of flavors they can express when they're brewed well. Some beans have a higher potential for clarity. They can open into delicate acidity, layers of brightness, maybe even florals. But they'll never feel heavy and dense. Others have a higher potential for body. They naturally move with more weight, warmth, and sweetness. But they'll never sparkle or lift the way a bright, lively bean does. Your brew lets you explore that potential, but only within the boundaries the bean gives you. You're not creating flavor, you're revealing it. That's why the real beginning isn't the kettle. It's matching the bean's natural limitation and potential to what you want in your cup. When you start there, brewing becomes expression instead of correction. I grew up around roasting. My parents roasted coffee at home, and I tasted their beans every day without thinking much about it. At that age, it didn't feel like learning. It was just part of a house. The smell drifting in from the backyard, the sound of roaster turning in the afternoon. But little by little, I started noticing things. Some days, the roaster came off the heat a little later, and the aroma felt heavier. A few days later, when my mom switched the beans, I could tell which batch it was. The bitterness was a little firmer, not too strong, just more defined. Even as a kid, I could taste how the choices made during the roasting showed up in the cup. Brewing worked the same way. Sometimes my father would ask my mother to raise water temperature because he knew he roasted that batch touch darker. He wanted the aftertaste to feel sharper and cleaner. So she adjusted the brew to match it. I didn't have the language for it then, but I grew up watching roasting and brewing respond to each other, like two parts of the same conversation. Now, as an adult, that connection is obvious to me. When I taste a coffee, I'm not only tasting how it was brewed, I'm tasting the bean, the roast decisions behind it, and how much room the coffee has to express itself. And if you're curious about how I read those decisions in the finished cup, I talked about that in another video. And this is why brewing starts long before the brew. You're not creating flavor from scratch. You're continuing something the bean already began. Once you start seeing coffee as one continuous process, the role of brewing becomes much clearer. You're not starting from zero. You're deciding how you want the bean's character to show up in the cup. Because brewing is simply how you express your interpretation of the beans. Interpretation isn't inventing flavor out of nowhere. It's not creativity for its own sake. It's understanding what the bean already carries, the limits, the potentials, the direction, and expressing that in a way that makes sense to your own palate. To explore the coffee world more deeply, subscribe and keep sharpening your understanding. If a bean leans bright, your brew can guide the liveliness, so it feels intentional instead of sharp. If a bean has more natural body, you can let the weight settle into the cup without losing clarity. And if a coffee holds both sweetness and structure, your choices decide which one steps forward first. You're not forcing coffee into something it isn't. You're shaping experience inside the boundaries that bean already set. And yes, you can still chase problems in brewing. Maybe you wanted lively acidity, but it came out too harsh. Maybe the body feels too muddy instead of round. Those issues live in brewing stage. But the qualities themselves, the acidity, the body, the sweetness, come from the bean. Brewing is where you refine them, not create them. Here's a simple way to think before you brew for better coffee. Step 1. Start with your palate. When you choose beans, think about what you naturally enjoy. Not to stay in one lane forever, but to explore with intention. You can try new things without randomly chasing something different. You're still grounding every choice in the flavors you respond to. Step 2. Understand the beans. Think about what you already know. Where they're from, the roast level, how they tasted the last time you brewed them, or what roasters highlights on the label. You're not analyzing for perfection. You're just understanding the direction the bean naturally leans. Step 3. Check your conditions. Weather, humidity, even your mood can change how you taste. Some days, acidity hits you sharper. Some days, sweetness feels softer. Knowing that helps you understand what you're likely to notice first. Step 4. Make a small plan. If you want more focus, think about softening the edges. If you want more comfort, think about letting the weight show up. You're not creating flavor. You're deciding which part of the bean's character you want to emphasize or ease. Step 5. Brew and enjoy the cup. Let it teach you something about the bean and something about your palate. Step 6. Only if your cup didn't turn out the way you planned. Analyze it calmly, not with stress, but with curiosity. What showed up stronger than you expected? What felt missing? That becomes the guide for next time. When you think this way, brewing becomes less about fixing mistakes, but more about enjoying coffee with intention. And that alone makes every cup feel better. Better coffee doesn't start at the brew. It starts earlier with the beans and how you understand their direction. When you see brewing as one continuous process, everything comes together. Your choices connect back to the beans. The flavor makes sense, and the cup feels like a reflection of the whole path it took to get there. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful coffee day.